Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another learning engagement brought to you by ICF Mumbai Charter Chapter. My name is Anshul Verma, and professionally, I professionally work for a Fortune 500 company as a talent leader with 20 years of experience, and have a passion to support and see transmutation in organizations and with leaders through my journey as a coach and a student of life. My co-host for the evening is none other than Priya Sharma Sheikh, who's a leadership and a life transformation coach and with the PCC accreditation by the ICF. Today's webinar is about having to learn to apply coaching space for healing purpose using the ICF core competencies of cultivating trust to create a safe supporting environment with coaching presence. So the CCEUs for this webinar are 1.25. In the speed of the present, I'm sure you'll agree with me that many of us are living in uncertainty, and the world outside seems to having diminished their reality for most individuals and families and organizations. Safety and security, which seems to at one time be the foundational needs on the Maslow's hierarchy of needs, seem to be losing context today. And in the world today, it leaves people in different walks of life with fear, high levels of stress, anxiety, etc., looking for a space to find peace and restoration for this debilitating effect on individuals and families. Here is an opportunity for all of us to have our coaching sessions become more than a place for people to think of strategies, opinions, and actions, to become sanctuaries where people can lean into their worry and fear. There's a distinctive feel to a coaching space that is a healing space, and it's not coaching as usual. In this webinar, Leon VanderPol will share how to create such a space for us. To tell you a little about Leon, Leon VanderPol is an internationally recognized leader, master, teacher, and author in the field of transformational coaching. As the founder and director of the Center for Transformational Coaching, Leon has 10 plus years of experience as a coach trainer and mentor. He is also the author of A Shift in Beginning, the art and practices of deep transformational coaching, a new paradigm of coaching which invites people to drop below surface level engagement with life and explore boundaries of their existence and tap into their deepest sense of self. The core of his work is teaching people how to catalyze deep transformation in soulful presence and spirit-based ways. He's an engaging and dynamic and a thought-provoking presenter and teacher. So, with much further ado, I do not want to stand between you and Leon any further. Over to you, Leon, the man of the day.
Thank you, Anshul. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Perfect. So very good to be here with everyone. I see we have a nice sized group this evening. So thank you for taking the time to come in from your day to join us here. You know, it might help you if we all just take a moment to take a breath together. The big part of doing any kind of healing work is this being in a state of inner relaxation. So you may have come in from a busy part of your day. Heck, you might even be on the way home right now. So why don't we just take a moment to just allow yourself a breath or two. And just to breathe away anything that is keeping you from being present here in this space. You might even notice your intention in being here today. And just connecting for a minute with that intention. So even as we go through this call, just staying connected to your intention in being here. And if you find yourself out of alignment with it, again, that breath, and just coming back into that intention. So I'll share a little bit about myself before I move into the content. I am Dutch by ancestry. My parents both emigrated to Holland, from Holland to Canada when I was before I was born. So I'm Canadian by birth, but I have actually lived in Asia since 1996. And of those years, 21 years have been in Taiwan. So Taiwan is my home. I live in a city called Tainan, which is not the big city of the north, where I did spend some time, like 12 years, but now in a bid to slow life down a little bit more and to raise a family, I moved to this city called Tainan. So I'm married and I have two beautiful younger children. One's 13, one's 10. And so Taiwan now is kind of home for me. I've got roots here as I've been here so long. My coaching background began in 2006 when I first heard about coaching. It came to the shores of Taiwan a little bit late in the game compared to the Western world, maybe the same for India. And I hadn't actually heard of coaching until 2006. Someone mentioned to me that I might be interested in it. So I looked it up and I was interested in it. As it turned out, very interested in it. And I got certified as a professional coach. I opened the Center for Transformational Coaching in 2013. And that's really where we do the work that Anshul was speaking to, the deep coaching work that has actually given rise to this conversation we're having today around coaching as a healing modality. Because like many of you, I started out as a leadership executive coach. Like I was working in organizational life. And I knew at that time already that that wasn't where my true calling lay, like where my heart wanted to be as a coach. But it was where I was working. I was doing facilitation, I was doing training. So it made good sense that I was kind of coaching in that same arena. But as the years went by, I started to move away from organizational and corporate life and began to work more with, you might say, people from all walks of life and from all over the world due to some opportunities that I had working with a company called the International Coach Academy, which I know some of you are familiar. And what happened during those years when I started to move from coaching in the executive to kind of more this global, if you will, global clientele was that I had some experiences that really shifted how I understood coaching and what was possible in coaching. And I'll share one of those experiences with you now because it's kind of right at the root of what I'm here to share with you today. And this was an experience that happened early on in my coaching life. And I was coaching a woman. It was a virtual coaching call, so there was some distance between us, a few thousand miles to say the least. And she, for some reason, during our final session, 12 sessions, she decided that she was going to share something with me that she had not ever shared before with me. It had been a fairly, you might say, transactional relationship up until that point. And she shared with me that she had been sexually abused as a younger child by a family member. And she was carrying some of that kind of trauma in her. And it started to come out in our session. And you could hear the emotion, and the pain really coming forward in her as she was sharing this. And there was that little part of my brain, the coaching part of my brain that said, I was trained that coaches don't go here. Coaches don't talk about the past. We don't talk about trauma. We don't do any of that. That's really the realm of therapy. And yet here is this person kind of opening this very painful chapter in her life to me, and the emotion is just coming out. So I kind of quietly turned within myself and I just sort of asked within, so, okay, so what do I do? What's my work here? And the nudge I got, so to speak, was just love her. So I quite literally kind of put my seat back and I put my hands out and I just began to radiate love as best as I could, just this energy of love. And the strangest thing happened, at least it was strange at the time. For me now, it's a normal occurrence, but at the time it was very strange. Unlike anything I'd experienced before, she slowly started stopped talking, like just kind of slowly quieted down. And I could feel like this portal of a kind of energy open between us. And we literally sat for about 20 minutes in this beautiful energy in complete silence with each other. And I had never in a coaching conversation ever sat in silence with anybody for more than maybe 30 seconds. And here was this 20-minute experience happening. And then it started to feel like the energy started to close down after about 20 minutes, and we both kind of came out of it. And if we were sitting across from each other, we would have looked at each other and said, wow, what just happened there? Because there was something very, very deep in a sense, healing that was happening in that space. I didn't know what to make of it at the time. I didn't know what it meant, but I tucked it away as a heck of an experience to have. But it is actually the foundation for the whole trajectory of the work that we do in deep coaching, is the recognition that we can do a lot more in the coaching space than we are necessarily aware of. And that's this context that was mentioned at the beginning, this idea that there's a lot of people in pain today, not just because of COVID, but just society's under pressure, a lot of pressure, a lot of stress. And people tried not to show that, right? They put on their masks, and you ask them how they're going. It's like, yeah, it's pretty good. Life's, pretty good. But inside there is a tremendous well of pressure, stress, worry, concern, fear for all sorts of reasons. And they carry that. People are also carrying limiting beliefs, false beliefs about themselves, about their potentials, about their safety, about their security. So there's all this pain. And coaching is, I really suited to supporting people with their pain. But we have to move coaching kind of beyond these conventional images of coaching as helping people manage something or solve the issues that are giving rise to the pain. So conventional coaching, what it does is it kind of sees pain and the experience of pain as a problem to be solved. So people come into your session, there is this outpouring of pain, and it's like, okay, so what are we going to do about this? It's a problem to be solved. We kind of put our thinking caps on and we go to work on how we can manage it. And that is in part because we have been conditioned, taught somewhere along the way that pain is not good because it's uncomfortable. But that's really quite a superficial understanding of pain. And because of that, it affects quite negatively, I think, how we can work with it as coaches. So I'm going to put up some slides here just to kind of supplement what I'm talking about a little bit. I hope you can all see that. All good? Yeah? Okay, great. So the first thing is just getting an understanding of what pain is. So I use pain as an umbrella term. It just doesn't mean like the ache necessarily. So pain for me it's negative emotions that are really the result of deeper ego-based mental and emotional patterns that we carry, the thought patterns that we carry, the images that we carry. So they create negative emotions. That's one. Negative energy, which is really, you could think of it like the pain body. It's really the energy that's alive in all the cells in our body that's born of past negative experiences. And it could be trauma, or it could just be great disappointments or hurts or slights of our past, the losses, the disappointments, and it kind of lives within us as an energy. So it's not just emotional, it's energetic as well. And it can really get deep into us, kind of live in the cellular structure of our being. And that's really an important recognition when we talk about how deep this stuff can get. And then the third is the shadow side. And you may have heard this term in like psychology, therapy. It's really those negative impulses that we all have as human beings, like greed, jealousy, hate, pride, thirst for power, recognition, all that. That's all kind of the shadow side. So all of this is pain. So it helps also then to recognize, okay, so what's underneath that pain? Like if we're experiencing negative emotions, if we're experiencing this energy, what's underneath all of that? So it's helpful just, again, I'm just going to go through this kind of quickly, but for coaches to know and understand what gives rise on a psychological level to our experiences of pain is very, very important, because if we're going to support people through healing, we have to see all the ways that our mind, if you will, and the ego aspect of our mind gives rise to pain. So all of these are very, very important to understand. And we do work with some of these as coaches quite regularly, like limiting or false beliefs, the thoughts and stories. But it goes deeper. It goes deep into fears and anxieties and worries, deep disempowering thought patterns, negativity, negative attitudes. We talk about addictions, harmful behaviors. Not that we're coaching this, okay? Not that we're always coaching addictions or harmful behaviors, but we have to see the kind of totality of what's there. inside all of us, if we're going to be comfortable saying, okay, I can create a space in which people healed. These are the kinds of things people will bring to the table when there is enough trust in you to hold their life in great safety. Yeah? So then we can see that looking at the kind of different coaching approaches to pain, I call it managing versus healing. Two different approaches, two different strategies. So most conventional coaching, and I mentioned this just a moment ago, will focus on strategies. Like people come in pain, and we're going to strategize, find ways to deal with it, to manage it, to cope with it. And that includes just the stress of and the pressure of daily living in these uncertain times. We're going to manage our way out of our pain. I call that a survival strategy. That is a survival strategy. We are going to manage the pain and the turmoil, the stress and the pressure. But that is very different than healing it, because healing it is intended to get to root cause and heal at root cause. And for me, healing our pain, like healing the pain body, that is thrival strategy. That is what it means to truly thrive in this world. And so if you even yourself are operating daily through fear, pain, worry, stress, anxiety, and you are just finding ways to kind of manage that, you're in survival mode. But what it really takes is the willingness to face and go deep within those ego patterns, those ego-based mental and emotional patterns, that shadow stuff that keeps us and our clients in fear. And then to be able to do the healing work that helps us transcend them. And for me, this is absolutely the realm of coaching, to be able to support that level of work, right? To support that level of work. So I'll give you just a quick story too around a client that was looking at the managing pain versus healing pain. So he was noticing that he had in his work a real challenge working with authority figures. Now, he was a very successful business person, a very successful executive in a large company. And he worked with many, you might say, CEOs of various divisions of this very large global company. So he was not a man of no talent or success. He was a man of great talent and great success. And yet when he was face to face with a lot of these very powerful, kind of domineering, aggressive CEO types, he felt inside himself that he would just kind of turn into a little boy inside. And so he would come to our sessions very often looking for like help with this. Like, how do I just stand in my truth, or how do I speak from my own centered place within me? And how do I, so there's a lot of how do I, and then the coaching sessions would work to solve, resolve, figure out a kind of strategy he could use. And this is effective. It's not that it doesn't do anything for him. Absolutely, because he's willing to work on it. But through our sessions, we came to understand that the deeper issue for him had to do with, again, often a childhood upbringing in which he was taught from a very young age to absolutely bow, if you will, to authority figures, whether that was his parents or his teachers or his relatives. Those, he was taught that those in authority have power over him absolutely, and he must do what they say. Many of you might even be able to relate to that, kind of that cultural upbringing within a family structure. So he brought that to the table and he said, you know, this is where I know it comes from. This is what it's all about. And I kind of need to heal that little boy because I'm carrying that pain in me at a very deep level. But when it came time to actually do the work, he actually said this to me. I'm not kidding. He said, can we do this next year, Leon? I'm a little bit too busy for this right now. Okay. Can we just, for now, find ways to manage it and solve it and resolve it and just help me be more in face of these people? Well, that year came and went, and the years have come and gone, and he's never actually attended to that pain. So that's a great example of managing versus healing. And for the most part, in coaching life, people gravitate towards managing because it's what they know. And coaches do the same. Coaches do not necessarily understand what it takes to create a healing environment in a coaching session where that deep down stuff can be attended to. And then, of course, how do we attend to it? So I'm going to talk more about this later. Yeah. So just a little bit more. I'm going to open it for questions in a bit too. So what is it to heal? A couple of images of healing. This is helpful to understand, again, from a coaching context. There's one image of healing as mending that which is broken. So it's like when you break your arm. Okay, my arm is broken, and what I want to do is I want to heal it back to normal functioning, kind of a normality. So if people are experiencing stress or distress, fatigue, exhaustion, if they're feeling fearful and hopeless, there may be a desire to return to a kind of normal functioning. I just want to feel good again and normal and just get on with life at a functional level. So that's a good way to look at healing that which is perceived. There's something wrong with me and I need to kind of get back to a normality. But there's another really powerful image of healing, and that's the second one here, and that is about movement into wholeness and completion. This is the recognition that at the core of our being, we are whole and complete. But due to the ego mind and the cultural patterns that we have been taught, we have come to see ourselves as less than, not whole, not good enough, not complete, not lovable, not safe, not secure. And we go about this world doing the things we need to do to create a sense of safety or good enough or wholeness within ourselves. So healing then is really about attending to, not that you're broken, but kind of moving away those patterns of mind which stand in the way of you recognizing your innate wholeness, goodness, and completion. That's what it means to really grow into and know your most authentic self, like that essence self. So both of these images have value in the coaching context, again, because people will seek both. In the transformational work that we do at the center, we primarily work with the second image, but absolutely people bring in those parts of themselves which need attention. Those parts of themselves they've repressed, they've denied, because if they don't look at them, how can they grow into the truth of their being? If I'm not willing to put down that sack of rocks that I've carried for a lifetime, that pain and disappointment and hurt, and really open it up and attend to it, because I've never really attended to it, how can I really step into the fullness of myself? So these two images are not really separate, they're interrelated, and they both have a place in the coaching conversation. Right? So I'm just going to pause for a moment and ask if there are just any questions right now that have come up, just in what I've said. I've definitely got a bit more. And we're going to do a breakout shortly. I'd love to have you go into a breakout to talk about a really key question, but I just want to hear from you all first. Just given what I've shared, what's in need of clarity? Just come in or yeah, raise your hand. I'm not sure how this will work. So no questions? Okay, great.
Oh, there is.
Oh,
Nina's
there
got
is.
her hand up. Nina, please unmute yourself and go ahead
Yeah.
and ask the question.
Okay.
So, Leon, I heard you say pain in the sense of negative, it being only negative. However, my experience of working in the grief and trauma space says that pain in the context of grief is actually quite purifying.
Okay.
It's quite cleansing.
Sure. People generally don't
So,
experience it that way. So it's a way of, you're right. Anytime we judge it, negative or positive, we're really just putting a layer on top of it. Emotion is emotion. But generally speaking, there is also this kind of sense that there are emotions that can be very debilitating in the way people experience them, and emotions that feel very enlivening and empowering in the way people experience them. So that's what gives rise to this idea of negative, not that in the reality that anything is truly negative. Yeah.
and combining it with your third point of shadow, actually, I thought that if we put a label to it of negative or positive, we are actually dichotomizing the shadow phenomenon even more so.
Could I go ahead?
Yes, please.
Priya?
Just come in. Yeah.
Thanks, Leon. When you shared this example of a negative emotion manifestation with one of the leaders as an example, that's exactly was one of the, I wouldn't say a challenge, but as a coach, my client did come up with the same situation where um, the thing which kind of overpowers him is when there is an authoritarian figure in front of him, and he himself shared that it is probably because of a childhood experience of his own father being an authoritarian figure.
Mm.
And he said that I can't replace that with somebody else. But at the same time, he mentioned to me that I realized that I need to probably also let go of my ego and try to let go of certain things, because I'm myself, nature wise, I'm also very competitive enough. While he didn't talk about the healing part, he definitely opened up to say that, Rekha, I think I need to let go of, and it may not be very easy for me to do that, but I would definitely want to start trying. And when he started trying to do that, a lot of things more opened up for him. And so my question is, does it necessarily have to be healing, where clients do recognize that, I feel that I need to now let this go, and while letting this go may not be very easy for me to do.
Sorry, but I missed the question. I hear what you're saying, but I missed the question.
Yeah.
What
So the
was your
question is, does it necessarily have to be really healing, or even though your client understands the underlying reason why it is happening to them, and even if when they are saying and they're ready that I think I need to let this go off, so would that still be a healing or something that they want to take as a forward movement for them?
Yeah. My experiences, and I'm just speaking from my experience here, and this may be
Sure.
very different than other people's experiences, but my experience is that the desire to let something go is a sort of signal of the beginning of a process of letting it go.
Okay.
But that the intellectual awareness of it is only but a step in what is often a longer and more involved process. Because this is not just thought we're working with. We're working at, as I mentioned, things that get so embedded into your kind of unconscious mind as an energetic form. Some people even speak about the biology of belief, so it can really get sort of into the DNA in us as well. So how do we outwork this? It's a big question, and actually I want to speak to this more later on. But from my experience is that the desire is the beginning, and that even through the expression of desire, and as you said, sometimes that can then open up something more. People are beginning to attend to that which may have never been attended to before, and that absolutely is the beginning of a healing journey.
Sure. And what comes to me as the next question, when he keeps saying that, I don't know who am I being in that moment.
In which moment? The moment of healing or the moment of
Both.
disempowerment?
Both. And when he's moving into, because the being part for him, he's not able to relate with his own unconsciousness. And perhaps maybe in today's session, maybe I would learn more about in terms of how to help them to relate to that unconsciousness part of themselves.
Yes. I hope to shed some light on that a little bit later.
Sure.
Yeah, because it's a question that I would like to answer, which is, okay, so what can we do as coaches that enable our coaching space as a healing space?
Sure.
Right.
Thanks.
Yeah, that's a big question. Yeah, thank you.
So, Leon, we have Shweta and Arvind as well who want to ask you a question.
Okay, yeah, we have a bit of time for maybe one or two more, and then we'll continue a little bit.
Can I go ahead?
Yeah.
Please, yes.
Arvind, can you go ahead first?
Yeah, sure. Leon, the question that comes in my mind is, are we entering in counseling space when we are getting into healing? And secondly, how prepared we are as part of coach training to be able to actually do this effectively.
Very good. Two questions. One, I'll answer the second one first. I think that's part of the reason why I'm giving this talk, and also one of the reasons that we do the training that we do at the center is because you're right. One of the reasons that healing does not happen in coaching is not because it's not part of coaching. It's because coaches don't know what to do with it when it arises.
Exactly.
And what normally happens then is they put on their thinking cap, their intellect, and they go to work trying to reframe perspectives, ask some powerful questions, and drive people to take action, which, as I mentioned before, is what I just call managing pain.
Yeah, problem
It's
solving.
not healing it, right? So you're right. Coach training doesn't take most of us there. But on the other hand, that doesn't mean you can't get training as a coach to go there, because that is, like I said, that is purely a big part of the work we do as transformational coaches, because in transformative work, when people are really willing to open up those aspects of themselves that have been left unattended for a lifetime, they are essentially saying, I am ready to step into my fullest potential in this world. And unless this is attended to, that will not happen. So in my coaching context, I would like to attend to it. So how do coaches do that? So your first question was about, was it counseling, right? And sure, there's a lot, there's kind of an overlap here, therapy too. And it so much depends on the type of therapy, because there's some really beautiful therapies coming into the market these days, which are holistic therapies, which are spiritual therapies, which are healing-based therapies. And then there's some of the more classic images of therapy, which is like CBT, cognitive behavioral, which is all about, really using the rational mind to create change in perspective and understanding. So it really depends on sort of, to say, well, it's therapy. Well, which kind? So it's a gray zone. But one of the things that I always tell students is that we have to recognize that talking about pain in coaching is not just the end game in itself. And it's not just about providing comfort for people, because yes, people will come to you for comfort, the caring ear to speak to, if they sense that that's what you're offering. But the coaching context is about supporting people to grow or even transcend it. So the greater end must be for the coach and the client, and that must be understood in the coaching agreement, if you will, in the contracting of the work, that we have this greater emergent self piece that is ultimately why we're attending to the pain. And even if that's just, I'm so stressed out from my work and I'm so afraid that I'm going to lose my job, and I'm just crippled by fear because my job is under threat, and and there's all of that, we can still very much attend to the fear structures and the perceptions and thoughts that give rise to it in the service of helping that person really transcend, not just to return to normal, but even potentially to turn to become even a more full, complete, robust self in the face of whatever they're facing. So that piece of it has to kind of transpire somewhere in the coaching agreement, because it's not just about providing a place to come and have people express their pain over and over and over, but have no desire to grow beyond it, which I've witnessed myself, just kind of a return to. It's like, okay, that might be better for therapy. Yeah. But there is, like I said, it's a gray zone in some ways, and we have to find our way through that as coaches.
Thank you, Leon. Thank you.
Shweta, go ahead.
Actually, my question was a little similar to what Arvind asked. My question was, you mentioned that a lot of times the coaches do also deviate towards managing pain rather than healing the pain, because they may not be able to create that healing space. So is it because they lack the psychology background, or will it be possible for a coach to do it without a proper psychology or therapy background?
I say yes, because the work at the center works with coaches all the time who do not have a psychological or therapeutic background. Because, and I'll talk to this later, and this is the beauty of it. So this is going to be maybe a little surprising for you when I talk about then how does a coach support it? Because a coach does not support it from a space of, I have a technique, a modality that I have learned through something like therapy, which I then apply to you. So it's not an intellectual based approach that the coach takes. And that's the big shift for most coaches. And that's one of the challenges of therapy too, is it's often an intellectual approach to do healing work. So no, you don't need to have that kind of a background. And yes, absolutely, you can create a space in which people feel that they are so safe with you, so non-judged, so held, that they will open to the deepest parts of themselves. Because here's the thing that you have to remember. This is the ultimate axiom. You are not the healer. You are creating a space in which you give another person permission to heal themselves. And that is key to it. Because as long as the coach is holding the idea that I'm doing the healing, then you're in another zone. You're creating a space. So how do you create the space? Right, good. This will be the perfect segue, if that's okay, to my question for all of you. Did that speak to your question just before I go on? So here's the segue, folks, and it's on this slide. It really is. To turn your coaching space into a healing space, you have to create the conditions. You have to create the conditions. So if it's okay, I'd love for you guys to go into some breakouts for a little bit. We got lots, big group. Could we set up a breakout for about 12 minutes, maybe groups of 4? Don't go anywhere, folks.
Okay.
This is worth it. This is worth it because this is going to lead to my next piece. All right. So groups of 4, 12 minutes. The question for you is this. I'll put it on the slide. What are the optimal conditions that create a healing space? That's the first question. Okay. Just talk conditions. And if you still have some time, and this is big, what do you do as a coach? What do you bring in that actually gets in the way of creating a healing space? Good questions, right? I thought so. So people are dropping off like, I don't want to talk about it. Talk about it. This is core to what we're doing here in this webinar today. So yeah, groups of 4, if you've got them ready, 12 minutes. Are we all set to go, aren't you?
Yes.
Yeah? Perfect.
Yep.
So we'll come back here very soon, folks. Enjoy these 2 questions. Optimal conditions, and what do you bring in that gets in the way? See you soon. So these questions, I'm glad you had a chance to discuss them. So what are those optimal conditions that create a healing space? Now, all of you have likely been in a healing space before. You'll know it has a kind of energy. It's usually very peaceful, very spacious, very open, very relaxed, very trusting. Often there's no sense of needing to get anywhere, to have to do anything, to have to think. It's just a place of beingness over doingness. So if you're able to create a space in which people can truly relax, I mean, truly, deeply relax with you, which means you are truly, deeply relaxed within yourself. If you are able to create a space that is very open, that is energetically inviting, and I don't just mean intellectually, I mean truly sort of the heart, of that beingness that's able to, in a way, give people these energetic hugs. If you're able to create that place of peace, of grace, if your presence enables that, then people will go deep with you. And the healing will become an inherent part of your coaching presence and an inherent part of your coaching space. But there are, interestingly, some things that coaches do that get in the way. And I'll share a couple of them with you. One of them is this, that you have a pain tolerance threshold, which is basically that you have a kind of upper limit on the amount of other people's pain that you can handle before you get triggered. So it's really, really important that if you want to be doing work with people in which they are willing to really share what's going on with you, and I don't just mean the surface level, I mean open up to deeper realities within themselves, which is, for me, like the magic of coaching, when people really open up. And that does mean that people will start to face their shadowy parts of themselves that they have left unattended, that are painful. If you have a low tolerance for other people's pain, that will trigger you into doing something to close it down. And one of the things that coaches will do quite quickly in the, oh my goodness, what do I do with that? Oh, I am so not comfortable with this. This person is really expressing deep emotion. if that's in you, you will close it down. And one of the ways coaches do it is they start to ask powerful questions. There is nothing like a good intellect-based question to get people to think about their emotional state rather than be with and feel their emotional state. And then they try to solve it away or manage it with strategies rather than just allowing it to rise to the surface for expression, to attend to it, and to, most importantly, just to be with it. So this is a big one. You have to know sort of where are your thresholds? Like, who triggers you? When, like, is it your kids? Is it your in-laws? Like, who triggers you? And just like when they express pain, you're just like, yeah, whatever. It triggers something in you. Then the other question is, now you don't have to answer this right away. You have to think about this. How do you expand your capacity to be with more and more pain? Not just another person's pain, but the pain of society, the pain of the world. Like, how do you hold without taking it on? And that's the thing, because if you start to take on other people's pain, and a lot of empaths have this issue, they take on pain quite well. They're very sensitive. So you start taking on other people's pain. Now you're leaving your session and you're all tense because you just took on an hour's worth of somebody else's pain. But that's no place for you to be as a coach. And if you are that person, then you're going to do things like, I'm going to put up some kind of a barrier to going there or to keeping them from expressing it because it makes you uncomfortable. So your work then is to expand your capacity to be with pain more and more and more. And that's a whole learning journey in and of itself right there. Right? But there's another one too. And this is really big. This has got to do with engaging with the client. Like, what do I actually do? What do I actually do? Most coaches don't know. What do I do? It's actually, I was just saying this earlier during the breakouts, that it's simpler than you think. I'll talk about it in a minute. It's simpler than you think. It's more graceful than you think because it's presence-based work. But here's the thing. Let me share a little story with you just about a kind of pain that a client of mine had. Okay, so this had to do with entrenchment of pain around a client's sexuality. Now, I'll say this in all honesty. If your clients are willing to speak to you about their deepest sexual pain, then you have created a space of great trust, because this is intimate work. It gets to the core of people's shame very often, okay? So if you've created a space in which people are willing to speak to you about their deepest shames, then you have created a space full and ripe for healing potential. So just to say that. So client, sexuality. He missed out in his childhood and teen years on what he felt was the opportunity to be sexually explorative, because by the age of 9, his father had abandoned the family and he had been left to kind of be the man around the house and raise his siblings. So he got married to his first girlfriend, kind of in university, married his first girlfriend. And he lived kind of in this roots of, I'm missing out on sexual experiences that many have in their teens and in their 20s. And he just had none of that. So that marriage ended in failure. He found another woman, he dated for a while and got married again quickly. And again, just this whole, I'm missing out on these sexual experiences of my formative years. He's in his 40s now, and it was completely affecting his marriage. So this is the question. It's not just what, it is a question of what do you do when you engage, but like, how do you help someone to let go of a belief that has been with them since childhood, like that is literally kind of wedded to the fabric of their self-identity, that's kind of encoded, if you will, into their inner operating system, and it's alive, like that pain body. It's alive in like every cell of their body. Like, how do you let go of that? How do you support someone to let go of that as a coach? And this is the second kind of thing that coaches bump up against, if you will. One of them, not knowing what to do with it, as I mentioned a moment ago. The kind of other one being the pain tolerance. Like, I'm not comfortable with it. I don't know what to do with it. And then it's this, the limits of inquiry. The limits of inquiry. And all of us have been told that coaching is an inquiry-based process. So what happens when we bump up against the limits of inquiry? So the great challenge that you face when working with fear, pain, worry, anxiety, when you have revealed the core thought structure, belief structure, and you see just how embedded into people it really is. Like, I am so afraid of my future because my whole life I have been afraid that I truly am not safe in this world. And everything that I have done and built and created in my life is just to create a sense of safety in me. Okay. So what do you do then? Is it just as simple as, well, identify the thought, right? Identify the belief, and then just turn it around and affirm something different, like just have people say, I am safety. Or in the case of my client who had, just, I missed out, I missed out, I missed out, I missed out. What do I just have them say? I have everything. I'm abundant. I've experienced all I need to experience. Like, is it just that simple that we just turn it around? You cannot reframe perspectives to heal at that. It's just deeper than that. It's alive within them. And that's the challenge with the conventional coaching approaches, is that they use inquiry to try to make change. But you've all heard the stories of the therapy couch, right? Where someone's gone to therapy for 9 years. Like, it's possible to spend years inquiring into these patterns and make very little progress beyond them, because this stuff goes deep. It goes into the unconscious mind, and it gives rise to whole fields of personal consciousness. And then if your only tool in your box is inquiry and reframing perspectives, and you bump up against this, it's not going to work. It's too deeply encoded. It's just too deeply encoded. So what do we do? What do we do when we reach the limits of inquiry, right? So this is where I want to kind of take it just in the last little bit here before I open it for questions. So what then is the coach's role? What is our role in facilitating healing moments? And there really is a simplicity and elegance to it that all of us can learn. It is connected to the space and the presence. So are you the presence that invites healing? And if you're going to be that presence, you cannot be caught up in your intellect. You have to drop into a deeper place within yourself. It's a place that starts with kind of an open heart. It's a place that is woven of the heart's intelligence. I mentioned my story at the very beginning. I was told, just love her. Can you just love, like as an energetic expression, whatever is happening? Can you let go of all your need? Just let it go to make it better, to resolve it, to fix it, to make the pain go away? Can you let go of all of that? Right? That's just, that alone right there, just drop it, because all of that is a judgment-based response. Like, there's something wrong. She's uncomfortable. It's making me uncomfortable. We need to make this better because it's bad to be in pain. Right? So create a space, slow things down, become spacious, open up the heart, sit with, be with the pain. Like, let them know it's okay to feel it. You can even ask what wants to happen with this? What wants to happen with this right now? And then just be there and allow silence. Like, literally just stop talking. Enjoy the spaciousness of a held healing space that is born of your heart, in which this person can attend to whatever they need to attend to, that they can experience whatever they need to experience, that they can be in that moment with you, whatever they need to be. That penetrates so deep within. It is more powerful than any question you'll ever ask. It is more powerful than any technique that you can bring to the table. Is your capacity to hold a space woven of the heart, spiritual energy, if you will, that encompasses that person, sees them in their wholeness, sees them in their completion, is just holding that in mind, allowing them to be as they are, without judgment, without being triggered yourself into, oh my goodness, this is really emotional. Oh boy, this looks ooh, ah, like none of that. Just be there. Right? So it's presence-based work, not inquiry-based work. It's a held space versus this space that's got to get somewhere. This is how you create a healing space in your coaching sessions. It's actually beautifully simple. And you don't ever have to do more than this. Are there any questions coming up, folks? Just let me know. I'm not really watching the chats. So if there's something there,
No,
just come
not
in.
yet.
Not yet. Okay. Right. People are just putting their emails in. They must be very
Yes.
interested in getting CCUs, but this healing stuff. Is anyone listening?
So Leon, Puneet has just raised his hand for a question. Puneet Mehrotra.
Okay.
Puneet, would you like to go ahead?
Yeah, hi Leon. It was a wonderful presentation and sensitizing very deeply about transformational coaching. So my question is, how ready does the coach? When does the coach know that they are ready for such a coaching? Because is it important for self to undergo such a deep transformational work with self before we even embark upon doing something with a client?
Yeah, that's a really good question. And, we talked earlier about, kind of getting the training, but it's not just training as in with an external. You're right. It's like, in a sense, you're doing the work with yourself first. Have you explored your own pain? Have you explored your own shadow side? Have you sat with your fears and really just, can you be with them as they arise in you? Or do you just try to stuff them away and manage it and get on with it with I'll just put on a new perspective and off I go? The more that you can do some of this work for yourself absolutely prepares you to do it with another, because the other person will sense in you, this is a person who understands. They're not coming from book smarts. They're not coming because Leon said it's a good idea. They're coming from a place that is experiential. And what you're doing in your coaching sessions is moving them from an inquiry-based, got to have an outcome, to a true experience of being with whatever needs attention at that deeper level. So yeah, your capacity to do it with yourself is part of your training, so to speak. Do the work for yourself. You don't have to have gone the whole distance, but the capacity that you've done it with yourself is the capacity that which you'll be able to do it with others. They're kind of equal or parallel.
Right. I have one more question. May I?
Yes, please.
So usually we talk a lot about discovering the being and you really know who am I, what do I want, and then align your doing to your being in transaction. I don't want to call it transactional coaching, but whatever coaching we are doing. But here we are now talking about a shift in the being. So
Yes.
that's another level of it. The question is, do we really need to shift our being? And what's that space? I'm still trying to visualize that deeply.
Try not to visualize it, try to feel it. So when you feel in your heart this kind of expansive capacity to just be with pain, it may feel at first like love or compassion or care or tenderness. It may feel like all of those. So just kind of anchor into that. And notice what happens then as you anchor into that and you bring pain in. It might be your own pain or it might be the pain of someone near you. Just notice again how that sense of heart, compassion, and that higher vibrational intelligence wants to just be with. It doesn't want to fix. It just wants to hold. So it begins with feeling it in yourself as a sensed experience. And you're right, it is a shift in your own being as a coach. And that's the beauty of it. Like in that session I mentioned, like I went from kind of transactional to literally sitting there just radiating as much love as I could. And that was all that was called for. And the healing experience that we experienced together was extraordinary.
Thank you.
So Leon, we have Anita who also wants to ask you a question. And after that, Kesh, you can go ahead. Anita, would you like to?
Yeah, thank you. Hey, Leon, fabulous session. Thank you. This is
You're
a
welcome.
kind of a burning question and concept that has always been with me as a coach. I'm trying to integrate and assimilate this concept, and I need some guidance from you on this. In terms of, from my limited understanding, I know that when we're talking about emotions, we are operating within the amygdala most of the time. And then when we're talking about solutioning, logic, perspectives, concepts, and so on, we are more often in the prefrontal cortex. So when we talk about healing or holding the space for someone to heal, when they are probably operating in the amygdala, where do we operate from as a coach?
The heart. The heart. Now, I don't know what part of the brain that is. I'll be straight up and honest. I've never gone and looked at, okay, so my brain is here and it feels like it's here or it feels like it's here. I have no clue. It's this part. I don't know. All I have to say is that healing work is not an intellect-based process. The intellect has healed nothing. All the intellect does is it points to what needs healing. Like that there, see that? We revealed that to be what needs healing. Thank you, intellect. Good job. Move intellect aside. Heart. Heart must come in as the dominant consciousness form that does the healing work. Love heals all that is unlike itself.
So we let go of the brain, right?
Well, it kind of feels like that. To me, it does.
Okay.
I'm letting go of thinking.
Yeah.
Right? Like intellectualizing their experience, trying to make meaning out of it, and just creating a space in which a person can do whatever they need to do. They can squirm, they can wriggle, they can cry, they can scream, they can bang their fists, they can sit and stare at the wall. I'm holding for them a space in which they can attend to that which they have said needs attention at that deeper level with no shame, no guilt, no fear, no worry. Free. Free.
Okay, I got it. What you meant by heart center. Thank you
Yeah.
so much. That was very helpful.
You're welcome.
Leon, very simple question.
Great.
It has been wonderful hearing you. And you have been talking about what is your tolerance for pain, whether it is about the coachee, it's about the world, it's about the community, nation, whatever level that we're talking about. Have you, in your experience, at any point in time, hit that barrier where you're saying, no, I'm not able to take it anymore right now?
Yeah.
And what did you do at that time?
You know, it's funny that those moments have never been in a coaching session. And I'm not sure what that's about, but I think, you know, when I go into a coaching session, I'm so utterly prepared to be expansive in my way of being. But when my kid does something that annoys me, I get triggered like that. You know what I'm saying? So it's really interesting just to notice how the people that are closest to me can often trigger my pain thresholds in a heartbeat, the ones I love more than life itself. And yet people who I don't know as well, who are not as of me, I can hold an expansive space for an incredibly long time with them to do the work. Right. So this is for me, a beautiful place to start. It's just who are the places and the situations that trigger me. For example, like let's say you read the newspaper and there is some inflammatory remarks made by a president in some country. Donald Trump, is a man in enormous pain at all levels of mind and being. And when I read what he says, often I'm just triggered by it. I'm just like, there's an opportunity right there for me to look at why I was triggered. What is it about his pain and his beingness that triggers me in this way? So the opportunities are boundless for me to just notice, can I hold more and more and more of other people's pain, the world's pain, society's pain, my organization's pain, the toxicity? Can I just hold that without it affecting me, without me taking it on and getting stressed myself, which is often what happens to empaths. So it's actually about moving beyond empathy even. So empathy often means I feel your pain. But if you feel too much pain, it's going to crash you as a coach. So what is that place that we move beyond empathy even? into an expansiveness where we hold. So I don't know if that answers your question. Let me know.
It partially does. And your
Okay.
body language helped.
What piece is missing then?
So when Donald Trump triggers you, or something significant triggers you, or when you had it, what do you do?
Oh, what do I do? Yeah. Well, I do lose, the grounding in myself. I can get, as anyone, angry, upset, frustrated, disappointed, hurt, just like all human beings. But I'm so getting to the point where I'm used to doing the work for myself that my capacity to kind of bounce back, you might say, that resiliency capacity has increased. It requires me to find space and quietness for myself. I have to take time away from. Doesn't matter where it is, but I need to remove myself and I need to return to that place in myself, which is the desired beingness that I hold for the world. And the more that I just do that inner work, not only then do I find the less I get triggered, the greater are my capacities. But when I do get triggered, my resiliency is able to bring me back more readily each time. And over a while, I don't even want to go there anymore. I don't even want to go there. I see so much pain in this world. There's pain everywhere. Everyone's hiding it. Everyone's trying to get on with life. And everyone is covering up so many aspects of themselves. And I can see it in their eyes. I can feel it in their energy. And if I'm not careful, it's very easy for me to get drained by that. So I have to make lots of time and space to return to center in myself. Yeah.
Thank you.
Leon, there is a question that I have on behalf of Anuradha Sant. She says, it encompasses so well the concept of unconditional positive regard for our clients, and completely agree this is possible only if we have UPR for our own self. Any further views on that?
I need to know what UPR is.
Anu, would you like to unmute yourself?
Oh, unconditional positive regard.
Unconditional. Yeah, I didn't want to write it again.
It's like, got it. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. That's why I say the work really begins with ourself. It really begins with ourself. And as we do the work for ourselves, as we attend to all that within ourselves, we will increasingly be able to just hold that for another without being triggered, without seeing it as a problem or needing to be fixed or even negative. We start to see the beauty and the grace in all of it. Yeah.
Nina has one more question. Nina, would you like to unmute yourself?
Thank you, Priya. It was not a question. It was actually a response triggered by the conversation about brain, which part of the brain. And I just got reminded that we often forget in coaching, even elsewhere in life, about the two more profound brains in body. One is in the heart that Leon has been talking about, and the other in the gut. So we can definitely respond from there.
Yeah.
These two brains are just as profound, maybe more profound.
There's a question here from Aparna Mehra, and she says, how can transformational coaching help clients identify and heal their shadow?
Hi, Leon.
Hi, Aparna.
Lovely to see you again.
Yes. You should know the answer to this question. You took the deep coaching intensive.
Yes. But I think I find clients are reluctant to go there. And I don't feel equipped enough to help them go there.
Right.
Yeah. So I'm wondering if there is the need for readiness here as well.
Big time. I always say that it's when the readiness of the client meets the capability of the coach. And that's when the magic happens. If either of those two parties is not capable or ready, then it won't happen. Or it'll only go so far, so to speak. Right? So that's why we do the work in the deep coaching, because we are readying ourselves with a capacity to do this work, so that when our clients go there, we're not like, oh my goodness, what do I do? Oh my goodness, this isn't good. Let me think of a powerful question to help them reframe their perspective. we are able to really just increasingly confidently be with that and then discern, are they ready to really go into this and to do the work for themselves and to heal themselves? Again, when that readiness meets your capacity, and they'll sense it in you, they will sense, you are the person that I can do this work with. I sense it in you. Or they'll sense the opposite, like, and maybe that's part of why you notice a reticence in people to go there, is because they're sensing in you that the capacity might not really be there yet.
Mm. Yeah. Okay.
You know,
Thank you.
it's a dance. Yeah. Yeah. So I know people need to drop off, and that's perfectly okay. I'm energized, so I can stay on for another few minutes. But if anybody needs to drop off, that is perfectly okay. Yeah.
Puneet has one more question from what I see.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm sorry, but I'm really curious about this. Leon, you gave us two examples of people with long-standing, deep-seated limiting beliefs, and
Yeah.
then you also mentioned that this is not we're not a healer here. We are holding the space for healing. What
Correct.
exactly ensues when the person is in that healing space and with all these deep-seated? So unlike reframing, which is very superficial,
Yeah.
what exactly happens in that space?
That is not an easy question to answer, because there's no one thing, you know. And I don't even know, to be honest, I cannot even tell you what all happens in that space. And the reason is because we're operating at levels of mind and consciousness that are completely imperceptible. So I might sit there with the person and, you know, I can often feel an energetic kind of cocoon, if you will, start to form. That person may remain silent. They may get emotional. They may start to speak about things. They may also just go purely silent and just sit there with me in that. Some share, some don't. Some feel energy. Some feel like, I had a client the other day who he's like, my whole body is tingling. And he would just describe this body energy movement that's happening through him as healing is happening. I haven't a clue what's really going on. I don't even pretend to understand how consciousness works or how energy truly moves to heal DNA. Like, I don't even want to pretend I understand that. I just hold the space and trust that whatever that person is experiencing is good and right for them, and to the degree that they can handle. And I never get lost in, oh my goodness, it didn't go deep enough. Oh my goodness, I could hear that they kept going into their intellect. Oh my goodness. No, just trust it. And then watch the beauty of this movement. That's it. Right? It's like, it's really sacred work. It's really cool work, though. But the intellect and its need to understand needs to also just gently be put on the shelf. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
There's a hand up from Shweta. Shweta, go ahead.
If it's not too late, I can just ask a quick question.
Sure.
Yeah, so I was just wondering that whatever we heard today, knowing more about emotional intelligence or EQ, will that make any difference? Will it make it easier or better?
It can be for both. EQ, I've noticed, gives people, talk about unconditional positive regard, it gives that for emotions. And a lot of folks are unschooled in emotions. Interestingly, I just received a book the other day called The Unopened Gift, a primer in emotional literacy,
Okay.
which, you know, I think should be required reading for all children at high school, because we're not schooled in it. But when we become schooled in it and we understand the purpose and nature of emotions, it allows us to be so much more accepting of just whatever is there. Oh, like anger. Stop getting angry. You're always getting angry at me. I can't stand it. You're always angry at me. Like, anger's bad. Anger's not bad. Anger has a full function. So if we could understand that, then I think then acceptance opens. And when acceptance opens, a lot more can be done.
Great.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Leon.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Very good session.
Be a good place to wrap up then. Yeah.
much.
Thank you all for coming today.
So
Fantastic to have you here.
Thank you.
Such a joy.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thanks
You're
a lot.
welcome, everyone.
Thank you so much.
Have a
Thank you.
beautiful evening.